ॐ वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. So we continue with our alternate Saturday Bhagavad Gita class, and we are coming towards the end of the 12th chapter, Bhakti Yoga. So as you all know, there are 20 verses, and the discussion began when Sri Krishna explained to Arjuna. In fact, it began with a question by Arjuna to Sri Krishna. When he asks him, there are various ways that we worship, that through which we can worship God. One is a formless aspect of God, because Hinduism offers a lot of paths. The goal may be the same, but the paths can be different. So that's the confusion. There's no one particular path which a Hindu would prescribe or Hinduism prescribes. So, naturally, after 11 chapters, the first 11 chapters, where Sri Krishna explains the various paths, we started with Vishada Yoga, and people might wonder, how can Vishada be a yoga? Vishada means depression. Can depression lead to yoga? That's something contradictory. But in fact, a dissatisfaction with the present state of things leads to something higher, a quest for something higher in life. Because if you are satisfied with your present condition, then you don't aspire for more. It's only when there are challenges, when there are trials and tribulations in life, you want to somehow find a permanent solution to all the various trials and tribulations that a sadhaka faces or a human being faces. And one such occasion was the beginning of the Mahabharata war. You cannot imagine a worse situation than that. When Arjuna is suddenly faced with the prospect of killing his own cousins and also some of his teachers who are on the opposite side. So it's a very big dilemma. We call it Dharma Sankat, or you don't know what is good, what is bad. Your the capacity to make choices temporarily is lost. So we need buddhi. So the second chapter itself, as a result of depression, Arjuna just lost his capacity and also lost the strength. Suddenly fear gripped him, and he was wondering whether he can really, a person who had defeated the whole Kaurava army in the past, single-handedly, found himself in a very peculiar position because of his uh, lack of emotional control, which led to Vishada, which is also something similar to depression. So in that depressive state, Sri Krishna had to give him a dose of Sankhya Yoga, which is known as Jnana Yoga, something which tells about the eternal, formless nature of the soul, which makes one very strong because there is no scope for any kind of duality or any kind of fear. So once he has roused the soul of Arjuna by calling him all sorts of uh, with so many adjectives, he addresses him. It's a, you are like a coward, and what will people say if you run away from battle? You're a great hero. So he tries to inspire him to fight, do his duty rather, not just to fight, but to do his duty, follow dharma. So in the process, he teaches him the truths of Sankhya Yoga, which is also known as Jnana Yoga. And that, in fact, inspires Arjuna, says, if that is true, then why am I fighting the battle at all? Then Arjuna has to be given the knowledge of Karma Yoga. In third and fourth chapter, we saw uh, the Karma Yoga is explained in a beautiful way by Sri Krishna, saying, yes, Jnana is the path, no doubt, but Because you have so many desires, because you have not reached that state where you can practice Jnana Yoga, you have to first perform your duty, which is not your choice, duty because of your karma. The karma, the baggage of karma with which you were born, will force you to act whether you want it or not. So you have to face the consequences and work out your karma. That is karma yoga. To work out all the difficulties that approach us is because of some cause in the past. There cannot be any effect. It's a very scientific approach to all the life's problems and their solutions, because science believes that there cannot be an effect without a cause behind it. You don't attribute any incident in your life to destiny or to some strange god in the clouds who will decide your fate. That is not possible according to science. So, a scientific approach to religion would mean, or spirituality would mean, that if there is an effect that you see, just as chemistry says, if certain reactions are seen, there are causes. You can't say it is God's wish or attribute something uh, uh, irrational. So, rationality demands. That is why this after Sankhya Yoga, Sri Krishna tries to explain to him why he has to fight. What made him fight in the first place? Then he explains all the gunas and all those things. And finally, he tells him that whether you want it or not, your nature will make you fight. There's no other way. You are a Kshatriya, you are born as a Kshatriya because of your past karma, and you have been prepared yourself for the war, and now if you just run away, you will be called a coward. So Hinduism, as seen through the great scripture of Gita, tells us that at different stages you have to use different methods to reach the same goal. Then we come to Dhyana Yoga, because there are many questions which Arjuna keeps on asking Krishna in the third and fourth chapter. How to do Karma Yoga, Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. That is dexterity in work. How does it come? Then he says, dexterity in karma will not come if you can't meditate. So then he has to explain the Dhyana Yoga, that is the sixth chapter. You see, slowly he's taking him in different steps. He's explaining all the possibilities of a human personality, which will enable him to lead a successful life. So he tells him, without dhyana, there cannot be, neither there will be jnana or karma. So we come to Raj Yoga or the Dhyana Yoga, which Sri Krishna says, if the mind is not controlled, you can't control your actions. If you cannot control your actions, you cannot control the reactions. So if you cannot control the causes, you cannot control the effects. So whatever you do, you have to do it in a spirit of Karma Yoga. Now Arjuna is confused because Sri Krishna is first telling him in the second chapter the value of jnana, where you have to become a sthita prajna, not be affected by the duality of the world. It's very easy to speak, but difficult to practice it. How can I be free from likes and dislikes? Likes and dislikes are part of our life. We cannot live. There are certain things we don't desire, don't want. There are certain things we aspire for. So how do you just say that you have to be neutral? That requires the path of jnana requires a tremendous willpower to tolerate everything and bear everything. So Sankhya Yoga, the Jnana Yoga, which is in the second chapter, appeared to be too difficult. And realizing that, Krishna gives him another alternative. Then he says, you are not fit for Jnana Yoga or the path of knowledge. So there are preparations you need to make. So you work with a spirit of dedication to the Lord or in a detached way. And that Karma Yoga will remove all the causes that lead to this effect which you are experiencing, the Vishada that you are experiencing before the battle begins. And suddenly you are engulfed with the kind of fear and nervousness, and suddenly you say that you can't fight anymore. So he tells him you have to see the underlying causes and try to work out your karma through karma yoga. Then he comes to dhyana yoga. I said, unless you meditate in life without a concentrated mind, your karma will not be proper. Not only will you spiritually benefit by your karma, but you will not even benefit in a secular way also. The work you do will be slipshod. It will not be, uh, it will not lead to success. So karmashu kaushalam, yoga karmashu kaushalam. And when Sri Krishna says that, that is dexterity in work. Dexterity in the sense you do it in a very efficient way, using minimum energy and minimum effort. So that is karmasu kaushalam. And also do it in such a way that you are not bound by your own karma. And you lead to more and more, more and more causes for more and more effects which will bind you and create a lot of problems for you. So do it in such a way that you exhaust your karma. Then after Dhyana Yoga, we saw so many other yogas. Then he comes to the emotional aspect of human mind. So he introduces Bhakti Yoga and says that there is another path. But before that, Vishwarupa Darshana, 10th and 11th chapter, he describes the glories of the Lord. When we meditate on the glories of the Lord that we see in nature, it leads to a meditation on the ultimate nature of God which we do not know. So we begin with His glories, then you ultimately reach the Lord whom you want to, from whom you are seeking help. But then after 11th chapter, Arjuna is again confused. Then he asks a question which results in 12th chapter. We discussed, this is a sort of what we discussed till now in brief. And in the 11th chapter, Arjuna asked this question, you have described me a God which has no form, because Hinduism accepts a formless God and also God with form. Sri Ramakrishna's gospel reconciles both. How can a God be with form and also without form? Normally, a person who considers himself to be rational would prefer a formless God, a God which doesn't have a particular form on which to meditate. He thinks it is superstition. But Sri Krishna tells him that since we are embodied beings, in the first 3 or 4 verses, Arjuna's question was the beginning of Bhakti Yoga. There are certain people who believe in worshipping God without any form. He's a formless divine, whatever idea of divine they may have, but he's formless for sure. So they said, we don't believe in a particular form that makes us superstitious. How can we attribute form to the Almighty God? So in the Jewish tradition and also in a certain degree in Islam and other religions, they don't believe. They say it's blasphemy to even say God takes the form of a human being. Whereas in Hinduism, and of course Buddhism doesn't believe in God at all. So they just believe in the law of karma, dharma, and how you can undo what the wrongdoings that you have done over several lives. They believe in reincarnation. So Buddhism doesn't say that we don't need God to solve your problems. You can solve your own problems by undoing what you have done. That theory is very simple. So you don't involve any idea of concept of God. But for Hindus, we have Advaita, which does not again believe in God. There are theistic sects which believe in God with form. There are other sects which believe in God as incarnations. And when Sri Ramakrishna was asked, he said all are different pathways leading to the same goal. But if both are leading to the same goal, then Arjuna asked Sri Krishna, why are you asking me to worship God with form? You explained the Vishwarupa, the different aspects of the deity. Why should I meditate on that? Can I not directly meditate on the formless aspect of God? So the third verse of this 12th chapter, Sri Krishna very clearly explains, It is easier to worship God with form for a person who is embodied. For example, if you feel that you are not the body, by some chance you have got rid of that body consciousness, you are feeling yourself as a pure spirit, then maybe Advaita and the path of Jnana is easy for you. But the moment we have attachment, moment we feel likes and dislikes, pain and pleasure, all these dualities make us feel that we are sort of imprisoned within the physical body. They call it one who is bound by the body. That is the word Krishna uses. For a person who has a very strong body sense, for him it is better to worship God as another body, far superior than ours. And that is how he introduces the concept of avatara. We like our God to be a human being like us because we like and we are still so much attached to our bodies and we have our pains and pleasures. And especially when we have pain in life, we expect somebody who is far superior to us to solve that problem. It may appear as superstition. How can an avatara solve your problem? How can a God? But you have to remember that it is the formless aspect which has taken the form for our sake. Sri Ramakrishna says they are not two different things. Because I can't conceive of a formless aspect. Formless aspect doesn't mean anything to me right now. I have a body, I have a toothache, I want it to be solved. So I can't imagine, even if somebody tells you you are not the body according to Advaita, you are the pure spirit, you will say I can't feel it, I can't experience that. I still experience my toothache, I experience my body, everything is experienced. Then the Bhakti Yoga says, then you worship somebody who is embodied like you. And that is how the concept of avatara comes. But even if you take a god with form, people who are very religious, who are very devoted to a particular deity, they will say that I have a lot of faith in my God. I go regularly to my temple, whichever God I believe in, and that makes me religious. But that doesn't make you spiritual because after a few verses, Sri Krishna has a doubt. Arjuna has a doubt which Sri Krishna uh, solves. He has a doubt that if I am a devotee, then what are the characteristics of a devotee of Lord? Say I believe in a particular personal God. How do I classify myself as a good devotee? What are the terms and conditions? To put it in a very crude way, how do I know whether I'm on the right path? The devotion that I have doesn't seem to help me. In crisis, I pray to all the gods that are available. In Hinduism, we have more choices. If Hanuman does not listen, then you change your Ishta, then maybe Krishna, they go to another temple. And then there are people who tell you that if you worship this god with this mantra, maybe your problem will be solved. We run to all the temples. That's very common. That is because we want to find a supernatural solution for our natural problems. For a worldly problem, we don't have faith in our own ability to solve our problem. So we expect some superhuman being or some super divine or divine power to help us in our effort to resolve our problems. That is why they say if you don't believe in God, or as Buddhism does, then you take the whole responsibility on your own shoulders. That is more tough, but it is more challenging because then you say that what I have done or what I am suffering now, if it is a result of my own karma, then nobody is going to solve it for me. If I am hungry, I have to eat. Somebody else cannot eat for me. So that is why this path of knowledge, which Sri Krishna has advocated right in the beginning and the second chapter, motivating Arjuna to give up all the fear, which comes because of inordinate attachment to the body, because he was fearing death. He was fearing death of his teachers and his cousins, whom he hated, no doubt, but still he did not want to kill his own cousins, and neither did he want his own family and his own supporters to be killed in this horrible war. But he didn't think of the consequences before uh, fighting for a righteous battle, according to him. It is a dharma kshetra. So they had all assembled, and there's nothing wrong in that. And Sri Krishna reminds him that the consequences are a result of your karma, but as a Gyani, you should not be perturbed. You just do your duty. And but that formless God is very difficult to comprehend because of the reason which Arjuna is given by Krishna. He says, because you are embodied, you feel you need the help of a Lord in whatever be his relation, his or her relationship to you. People worship Durga, people worship different goddesses, gods, because they are intensely human like us, and they also worship incarnations because they come in human form, and we hope we need some support to handle our own problems, to solve our own problems, and we take the support of these uh, gods. But then a stage comes when we have to transcend that, and that leads to the same goal. So Arjuna is told by Sri Krishna, I am explaining to you this bhakti yoga because it is a easier path, not because it is a superior path. Those who have the capacity can worship the formless. But for you or for people who uh, are incapable of imagining or having the strength to follow the formless aspect of God, they can follow this path. Now, after describing all the different qualities of the bhakta, Sri Krishna in the last three verses, because Arjuna asked him, which devotee is Priya? Who is very dear to you? Among all the devotees, there are different categories. So if you tell me what kind of devotion you prefer, because you know better, you are the Lord himself, and I am asking you a question. So he gives different graded type of, he described devotees in different types of grades. And when he comes to the 17th verse, which we discussed, yes, I just recapitulated what we discussed. Now there he says, Yona Rishyati na dveshti, because as I told you, he gives lot of conditions. You can't just be a devotee of God because you have faith in some God, because you go to some temple very regularly. Maybe you offer and think your duty is done and the God will come at the last moment to save you. No, that is not the definition. There are many conditions which have to be fulfilled according to Sri Krishna if you want to be considered as a devotee who is dear to me. Same Priya. He is dear to me. He is dear to me. Like that, every verse will end with this. So he's giving a list of qualifications, you may say, or to become an adhikari, to have the capacity to practice bhakti yoga. First is, most of these things are so difficult that people would end up thinking that Jnana Yoga is also equally difficult. The Sthita Prajna Lakshana is repeated in a slightly different way. He says, Yo na rishyati na dveshti, na shochati na kangshati, shubha shubha parityagi, bhaktiman ya same priya. Who is dear to me? Not one who claims that he is a devotee because he is repeating my name or he is going to my temple. He is not dear to me. The person who neither rejoices. When he gets something good, he just remains calm. He thinks it's just a gift from God. There's nothing to be, we don't have to jump about because we got something. So he doesn't rejoice excessively, who neither rejoices nor hates. He doesn't hate if certain things don't happen. See, most of us, when we worship a God, we expect God. It's like some kind of business that we do. I have prayed to you so much, and then you never gave me any pleasure or any comfort in life. I've been suffering so much. So people lose faith because their devotion is shallow. So to prevent that, he says, one should not rejoice when he gets good things and should not hate when he gets unpleasant things. Nor does he grieve nor desires. So, na shochati, shochati means one who does not grieve and one who does not desire, because If we think we know better than God, then we ask God for certain things. Sri Ramakrishna says it's like a small child asking the mother for certain things which the mother thinks is not good for the child. So she will never give it. That doesn't mean that she hates the child or she doesn't want the child, because he knows the desire that the child has is going to land him in trouble. So she may not give it. So one who does not grieve if some unwanted thing comes in our life, which again, as I said, is the result of our past actions, which we have to somehow uh, tackle. Nor does he desire for something which is unreasonable. We may have thousands of desires. I want this, I want that, I want that. And you can't expect God to fulfill all of them. That is why when Sri Ramakrishna was, is still now, not was, is still worshipped as the Kalpataru. If you say go to Kashipur, people stand in queue. I don't know how that tradition started, but definitely Kalpataru Utsav is not celebrated in Belur Math. But they celebrate it in a very big way in Kashipur because that incident happened there. But the significance has changed when people stand in long queue, because Kalpataru means you make some sankalpa and God fulfills it. So Kalpataru is one. Kalpataru means a tree. It's a wish fulfilling tree. It's a myth, it's a mythological tree which comes in our Puranas, where they say if anybody sits under the tree and prays, he'll get what he desires. So the question is whether Ramakrishna is such a Kalpataru. He would not be foolish to give you whatever is not good for you. So here, the answer is here, uh, the people who have worldly desires, when they go to God, they expect God to fulfill every desire of theirs, whether it leads to a better life or a worse life. But a lover of God is supposed, he should not grieve nor should he desire anything. They hate some situations or people who create difficult situation, unwanted situation. But a true devotee of God, according to this definition, they will not bother about the situation, however unpleasant they may be. They take it as a will of God. This is one point he is trying to make uh, very clear. So he does not grieve when he is deprived of some worldly possession. Maybe it's the will of God. Everybody doesn't have a good day always. But he keeps his mental balance intact. So the reason Sri Krishna tells Arjuna is that if you say that you worship God, if you are devoted to God, then you have to take everything that he does as his sweet will, whether you call it as karma, your own karma, or whether it is, in this case, we call it a sweet will of God. And we should have patience because we should know what actually is in the long run is God's plan. We do not know. So he is full of devotion. Such a person who neither rejoices nor hates nor grieves nor desires, he is dear to me. So after that, uh, we come to a nice quote from Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrut. It is in Bengali, but the English translation I'll give. Sri Ramakrishna, somebody asked, he said, I meditate so much on God, my dear God, and I love him, but I can't feel the presence. So he says, the Gita says this presence cannot be felt in the heart, which is given to attachment, aversion, and fear. Uh, so in the gospel, he says, in such a situation, you cannot expect the Antaryami, Lord, who is supposed to be the Antaryami, the inner controller, to take control of something which has the heart which is full of attachment, aversion, and fear. Then, what are the qualities that one should have? This is 18 and 19. We'll try to conclude this today. Then we'll go to the 13th chapter. So the 18th and 19th give some other qualities. The first two qualities are very difficult. I mean, the first four qualities, which says who should neither hate. You can't imagine a life where you don't hate. I mean, I'm not saying only you hate human beings. You hate certain food. I mean, likes and dislikes. To get rid of intense likes or dislikes, which it's not very practical for most of us. We have our likes and dislikes, and in fact, our training is such that we pamper the child by saying, "Oh, he doesn't like this, and she doesn't like it," and they just are uh, psychologically, brainwashed. That if the training is given that see whatever food or whatever, it's not just a question of food. Anything that comes, if that balance is to be maintained, that you see certain times you whether you like it or not, you have to accept it. Not accepting and always running after things that you like and always hating and rejecting or throwing away things that you don't like, with lot of strong likes and dislike, a child's life becomes miserable. So he is conditioned that way, and when the child grows up, he finds it so difficult to get rid of. That's why when Sri Krishna tells Arjuna this, that he should neither rejoice nor hate, nor grieve nor desire. I mean, it seems to be an impossible task, as difficult as the second chapter where Jnana, he says, you have to be a sthita prajna, you should not be disturbed by pleasure and pain. They may be very good as theories, but when it comes to practice, it is difficult. So he comes down a little. He understands that Arjuna is perhaps will think this is almost impossible, because all my life I have been told that I like this, I don't like this, and I have actually pampered. I have been pampered, and I have allowed myself to be pampered, and then I come to a stage when I cannot live without likes and dislikes. So how to avoid that? How to create a situation where you are free from likes and dislikes, and you are more, you may say, stable. Whatever comes, you accept things as they are. That's a very difficult, it's a challenging task, especially for people, for persons who have been trained that way. So that's why they say those who are faced lot of trials in life, children who never got what they wanted, those who had led a very difficult life right from beginning, they are far more successful because they were not born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They have faced the struggle, they've faced the dislikes, and maintained their mental balance in spite of getting the things that they don't like, because most of the things that they got in childhood were the things that they would not like to, but they were forced by circumstances. So, having faced this, they come to a situation where likes and dislikes mean nothing to them. They just want to struggle and go ahead. Such people are fit for devotion. Then he comes, how do you do this? So, the verse 18 and 19, he says, Samaha Shatraucha Mitrecha. This is also impossible, but these are the qualities or qualifications. So Arjuna is very clearly told that don't think this path is easy. It is challenging, but definitely you need these qualities to be a true bhakta, because such a bhakta is dear to me. Shama, Samaha, Shatraucha, Mitrecha, Tatha Mana, Apamanayo, Shitoshna, Sukhadukkeshu, Sama, Sangha Vivarjita. I'll explain what it is. Tulya Ninda Stutir Mauni, Santushto Yena Kenachit, Aniketa, Sthiramati, steady mind, Bhaktiman me Priyonara. He may say that he is a devotee, but does he have these qualities? This is a checklist. So, what is the checklist? The earlier one was much more difficult, not to have likes and dislikes. Here, at least something which can be practiced on a daily basis. Arjuna is being told by Krishna. Tulya Ninda Stuti means one whom he is not bothered by praise. Does not get unnecessarily elated because somebody praises you. So there may be some ulterior motive, we do not know. Everyone who praises may not be your well-wisher. So Tulya Ninda and Stuti. For him, praise and censure, that is criticism, is same, because he knows it's different natures which will make people either criticize you or praise you. There's absolutely no ultimate value to all these things. They are passing things. So for a true bhakta, or for one who is aspiring to be a true bhakta, the first thing you should do is to tulya. Tulya means same. To whom censure and praise are equal or same. So whether some person praises you, you don't get elated, because there, as I said, there every praise that we get may not be uh, coming from the bottom of the heart. It may be just some kind of lip service. So also censure. Censure is, in fact, Buddha has some wonderful parables how he dealt with criticism. Because whenever he went to Bhiksha, there were people of different kinds. So he had no choice. He had to knock at every door because he was a bhikshu. He lived on whatever food he got through begging. So he had very, very unpleasant experiences, especially when he goes to some house who are not very much in favor of giving alms. They would criticize him and shout at him. Some would welcome him and give him out of respect. So Ananda, his disciple, Buddha's disciple, found that he is not getting perturbed at all. And sometimes they got angry that why is my guru? Because they were all respecting him so much. And they said that how can this householder devotee, who, if he doesn't want to give alms, let him not give, but why is he criticizing my. So they used to get agitated and then complain to him, why don't you even reply to them? They just said all sorts of things, saying you're lazy, you're begging, and all those things. So then Buddha is full, Buddha's stories and all the incidents. He had a very nice way of uh, teaching things. So this is how to consider Tulya Ninda and Stuti as the same. Buddha teaches his uh, disciple Ananda. So then he says, he explains to him how this psychologically it is possible to consider both praise and blame, or praise or criticism, in the same way. He had a kamandalu where he used to carry water. Then he asks, that is his way of teaching, Buddha's way. It's very interesting. He carries the kamandalu in his hand. He says, now Ananda, tell me, because he also had a kamandalu. So he says, tell me whose kamandalu is this? It is yours, sir. It is yours, sir. Oh, then he says, now can you hold it for some time? So is the kamandalu now? The kamandalu has gone to the disciple. So where is the kamandalu? It is not with me. So he tells him that if I accept, if I have an attachment for this particular kamandalu, that it is mine, if I don't accept it, now it is with you. So I don't consider it to be mine. So if you don't accept either the praise or the blame, he has the freedom to give. But if you don't accept it, I asked you whose kamandalu, you still said it is Buddha's because you have not accepted it. You still don't have an agency that this kamandalu, you have your, and when I asked you whose kamandalu is that, though it is with you, you said it is yours. So it is for you to decide whether you accept somebody's criticism or accept somebody's praise. So if you don't accept, it doesn't become yours. It doesn't become yours. You are carrying my kamandalu, but still, because you don't accept it as yours and say that it is, though it is in my hand, it is not mine. So also people will give you or criticize you, but if you don't have the agency or if you don't accept that curse or if you don't accept that praise, then you can be neutral. Then Mauni, who are Mauni in the sense they just keep silent. They know there are so many opinions people will give, but you just keep silent. Santushta, who are contented. Once Holy Mother was asked, Holy Mother Sharda Devi, what is the best quality one can cultivate? There are many good qualities like generosity, helping, compassion, But she said, of all the human qualities, the most important qualities is santosha, contentment. She said in her Bengali, Santosher moto gun hoy na. In Bengali, she said, there's no other quality superior to contentment, because that's such a rare thing in anybody's life. To be content with whatever you have. If contentment is there, then everything comes. If a contentment is there, you can have the same attitude towards criticism and praise. And he is Mauni, because the moment you react, that is why they say there are two parts of our mind, a lower mind and a upper mind, or the higher mind. The lower mind is a reactive mind. So it is nothing, it is a mind that we share with animals. So they are highly reactive. So if you don't react, only a Mauni will not react. If he doesn't react, then his mind becomes contented and also steady. And then, yena kenachit, with anything, good or bad. Aniketa, he's homeless. Homeless not in the sense that he has to be a beggar. Aniketa means not getting attached to a place. I knew of a wonderful couple. It's a real story. It's not a story. It's a real fact. It is so rare to find such people. That gentleman was working in the police. Normally, people who, especially in India, if they're working for the police, they'll have several homes, not one home. Aniketa means having no home. So this police officer, though he rose to a very high position, he had no home of his own. So the government paid whatever rent. He was renting a home, and whatever little pension and savings he had. So somebody asked him, where is the, obviously he has to be a very honest officer. So then everybody, when he retired, they gave him a party, and finally many of them felt very happy that he has retired, because he would not allow his inferiors to, I mean the assistants to take money or be indulge in corrupt practices. So he was transferred from place to place, place to place. And as a result, if you don't, I mean, it's so difficult to buy a big house or buy a house, and he didn't have children. Then I asked him, you have retired now, where will you stay? Of course, he had money, pension was enough to pay for his rent. No, he said, I have booked a care home in Banaras where I am going to die. I said, you will spend your whole life there. He said, yes, yes, that's what I came without anything. Why should I carry the burden of a house? I was really shocked, because then I remembered when Sri Krishna says Aniketa, he's really homeless in the sense he has a home. Every time, wherever he stayed in a decent home. Not that he did not have a home. But he does not have the idea of that this is my home, my house, one house, two houses, three houses. And literally he quoted this verse from Gita, and also said, all my life I was aspiring for that. Some savings I have, me and my wife will, as long as we are healthy, we will serve the Banaras. We have a Sevashram. So they allow retired people to stay in care home. And we just want to practice spirituality. Any one room, if we get it, is fine. And all our savings we have willed to the ashram. So they allow us to stay. They give us food. They give us. So we will be literally Aniketa when we die. Because when we came, we didn't come with a house. We didn't have, we worked so hard. We work so hard. Ultimately, we have to leave it behind. So I was really shocked, because some of these verses, though they look very impractical, it may not be impractical for many people. Now, what happens when you are aniketa, santushta, that is full of contentment? You get sthiramati, means your mind becomes steady. So the second chapter where Sthita Prajna was discussed, Sthita Prajna Lakshana, who is a person of steady intellect, who never gets perturbed, whatever be the situation in life. He is known as, in this verse, known as Sthiramati, steady mind. Such a person, if he has bhakti, he is Same Priya, he is very dear to me. And then it continues, the next verse, which is the 19th verse, will quickly discuss that. He says, first is Tulya Ninda Sutir Mauni Santushta Yena Kenachit. And sorry, I just changed the order. Sama Shatru cha Mitre cha Tatha Manapamanayo Shitoshna Sukha Dukkeshu Sama Sangha Vivarjita. So that I just skipped. So Sama Shatru cha, Shatru means one who is equidistant from enemies and friends and foes. Whether one is a friend, I mean, he considers everybody in a very neutral way. So he doesn't have a enemy. One of the kings of the Gupta dynasty was known as Ajata Shatru. Means one, it's a very, Sanskrit has so many wonderful words. Ajata Shatru means, Jata means to be born. Ajata means one who is not born. So he is a person whose enemy has not been born. That means he has no enemies in life. So this is what he says, one who is equal to friend and foe. That is not practical, but that means he considers everyone in a very neutral way. Mitrecha tatha manapamanayo. This is something which is very difficult. When you get praise, when you get mana, honor, apamana. So depending on the situation, depending on the people with whom you come in contact, sometimes you will be honored, sometimes you will be dishonored without any reason. There may be no legitimate reason, but honor and dishonor will come. So one who is same in mana and apamana. Shitoshna sukha dukkada. One Shita and Ushna. Shita means in cold and heat. So these are signs which a bhakta need to have as a essential qualification to be dear to the Lord. Samaha, Sangha Vivarjita. Sangha means attachment. So not inordinately attached to anything. He may be in touch with everyone, touch with, just as this couple I said, they lived in a house, not that they were homeless. Aniketa literally, sometimes people translate it as one who is homeless. That means if you just wander, a beggar will be homeless. That is not the meaning. One who doesn't think that the home they are living is their home. So that is Aniketa. So who has no home means who has no attachment or who is free from attachment. So such a person is dear to me. So now we'll come to the last verse. See, it is the example that is given, the famous verse which Swami Vivekananda, that is another very interesting episode in the life of one of a great woman activist who had this spirit. It may be this lady is very much not known. She is the founder of one of the biggest organizations, and so you can get some glimpse of what Swami Vivekananda's Song of the Sannyasin. It's not a song for sannyasins. It is of the sannyasin for everyone. So this young girl, Ansuya Ben Sarabhai, she was the famous Vikram Sarabhai's aunt, father's sister, elder sister. So she, at a very young age, I don't know how she got hold of this book. She came across the Song of the Sannyasin, which is part of Jnana Yoga of Vivekananda, which was translated into Gujarati. So in class 7, she got this song. She used to read it daily. Somehow she was fascinated. So in those days, there was no Sharda Math or anything. So she just wrote to the publishers that this inspires me to become a nun. So where do I go? They said, we don't have any organization right now. It is only for men. But you can try some Jain organizations or some other faiths which may have facilities for women to stay in a monastery. So then she came across some people who told her it's the monasticism is in spirit. You don't have to wear the Gerua cloth and stay in a monastery to become. It's the spirit of the sannyasin. If you read this song, she used to read it daily. There's a small biography of this great lady where she says she never missed reading the Song of the Sannyasin. It's a big song. Sannyasi Giti in Bengali it is known as. So he used to read, she used to read every day. Imagine a class 7 girl, she was so inspired by this. Maybe she had this samskaras right from. So she decides, but as you know, in those days, the small girls were forcibly married. So she, though she belonged to the famous Sambalal Sarabhai family, Vikram Sarabhai was her nephew. She gave some conditions. She said, "See, I don't want to marry, but if you force me, I want to do medicine and serve humanity." That was her goal. Such a young girl. Then her brother, of course, could afford to send her to England because there were not good medical colleges in India. I'm talking of 1900. So they assured her, the family to which she was married, assured that we'll send this girl whatever she wants to study, she can study. Even after marriage, we'll allow her to study. So she believed and went. And on the day she reached, it's all there in her wonderful biography. They said, your husband has just passed class 4. And he's a businessman. He has so much money. And why do you? Obviously, you can't. Then they said, just before marriage, you said you will allow me to study. Young girl. In those days, unfortunately, they were married when they were children. She said, I'm not going to live in this house. She leaves the house. In that same night, she says, I'm not going to stay where people don't speak the truth. And then she comes to her brother's house, who consoles her, says, okay, I'll arrange for. She's sent to England, tries to study medicine, but somehow she gets disgusted with the medical studies and does law in London School of Economics. She passed, did law, and then she went back after completing law. She came in touch with a lot of women's right, or maybe women's empowerment activists, who told her to work for India rather than stay in England. So she decides to go back, started one of the biggest trade unions for both, for the men employees of her own brother's company. So imagine staying in the house. She didn't have a house till the end. She stayed in her brother's house, and in spite of this qualification, she started the first labor trade union for the rights of these poor male employees. But then she found that it is not serving the women of the family. The men are getting all the advantages and not passing it on to the women who are still suffering. So she decided to disassociate with that organization, started SEVA, Self-Employed Women's Association. So the idea is that though she did not formally renounce, she started the Seva organization, which works for the empowerment of women. It's a huge organization now with their own bank run exclusively by women. There are no men employees there. So she started this, which has been flourishing. Afterwards, so many people took it up, and it's still flourishing in so many countries, giving women spiritual, not only economic and social empowerment, but spiritual empowerment to decide their own fate. Because most of them were exploited in those days in Ahmedabad. So this is a result that a traveler, she was asked, if you read the biography, she says, it is my home wherever she lived. She lived in different places. Most of them were given to her in rent. She said, I'm like a traveler traveling in a train. I have no choice. Today I sit in this coach, tomorrow I sit in that coach. So a bhakta, a Godward, a person who is traveling towards God, it's like sitting in a train. He does not claim any coach as his own. He travels, no doubt. He stays, he moves, everything is fine. So this song inspired her, the song of the sannyasin, to live a life in the household, not as a nun, but as a woman who did everything for the cause of women's empowerment. Such a devotee is a favorite of God. So he doesn't seek, he doesn't allow any kind of worldly thoughts of possession. This is mine, this is, because that disturbs the mind. So here it says Sthiramati. Sthiramati means one whose intellect is steady. That comes when, as I said, there is a lower mind which is highly reactive, manas, and there is a buddhi. So the Gayatri Mantra, when you say Dhiyo Yona Prachodayata, means let my buddhi be awakened, let my mind be steady, which we discussed in the Gita earlier chapters, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, that enables you to have a steady mind, not disturbed by the external circumstances. That is what is known as Sthiramati. But only a Sthiramati can have devotion, because his devotion also will be Sthira. He will be a steady devotee. That is why he is very dear to me. Now, in the last verse, we will quickly conclude. He concludes this whole Bhakti Yoga by saying, Ye tu dharmyam ritam idam yathoktam paryupasate Shraddhadhana mat parama bhakto bhaktaha tiva ativa me priyaha. So all the devotees who follow this eternal dharma, dharma means this dharmyamrutam, the essence of dharma which I have explained to you. If a devotee has these qualities, idam yatha uktam, as I have declared in the 19 verses, paryupasate means one who follows it to the last word. Shraddhadhana, not just follows because somebody has told, out of Shraddha, out of a reverence for the Lord. Mat Parama, him I regard as the supreme Mat Parama Bhaktaha. They are the great devotees. And they are, ultimately he says, they are very dear to me. They ativa me priyaha. So, Shraddha is a word which is not just faith. So people have faith in their God, and sometimes it is a fanatical faith that anyone who opposes my God, I just either kill him or I just hate him. That is not what Shraddha is. Shraddha means faith based on conviction, faith, not blind belief or faith. That is the fanatical belief or faith in my God, hating all other things other than my God. That also is also faith. But Shraddha is not faith. Shraddha is faith with the conviction and with the understanding, with the idea that the Lord, the eternal Lord, to whom I am devoted, with all the qualities that are mentioned, He is the supreme goal. And whatever be the circumstances, as described in the previous verses, everything after the bhakta develops that, then he is on the path to bhakti. So it is this practice of dharma, dharmyamrutam, means the essence of dharma. Sri Krishna, in fact, the whole of Gita and also the Mahabharata is a dharma shastra. So dharma shastra means it is not just a religious philosophy or a spiritual philosophy. It is something which teaches us how to live in this world, here and now, in whatever situation you are. So he says, Sri Ramakrishna tells what is real dharma, what is the dharma of a bhakta. So everybody has a dharma. Even a stone has a dharma. Hardness is its dharma. Animals have their dharma. Every insect, every plant, they follow certain cosmic rules which is known as dharma. But bhakta also has a dharma. So he says, I have taught you the dharma of a bhakta. So if you say I am a bhakta, then you have to see all the 19 verses. And Arjuna, Sri Krishna says, tally with your life and see whether you qualify to be a dear bhakta of mine. So, Sri Ramakrishna in his gospel, and I'll end with that, he says bhakti is of two kinds. He made all the scriptures very simple to understand. In his very rural Bengali, used to say, bhakti are of two types. One is Vaidika bhakti and Prema bhakti. To just follow the injunctions, to do some puja, to go to pilgrimage, to fast. Most of us come in that category. We think we have done our duty if we go to our family deity or whichever deity we like, offer some puja, go on a pilgrimage and do some elaborate puja thinking that our future is assured. They are known as Vaidika bhaktis. Like it's Vaidika is something which is like business like. I give something and I expect something from God in return. So, but he says the goal there is not to attain bhakti, but to make your life as uh, pleasurable as possible and avoiding all problems. So we outsource our problems to the Lord and hope. It's a fond hope. It's not never going to be realized. That God will somehow take care of our problems. That is Vaidika Bhakti. And whatever we desire, whether God desires, God, whether God thinks it is good for us or not, we don't bother. We think it is, we want that, and we do all this puja and penances and all. That will lead, but Sri Ramakrishna says there's some value in that also. Because at least he has some faith in God. He goes. But ultimately he will realize, he says, he will get that prema bhakti, where he slowly realizes that I'm not getting what I pray for. So first he will doubt the very existence or the very capacity of his God or her God to answer the prayers. And then they will slowly accept, if the knowledge of the scriptures or the reading of the Bhagavad Gita inspires them, they will ultimately convert themselves into that bhakti gets converted into prema bhakti. And then he says, "Oh Lord, you do." There is a spirit of sharanagati, knowing fully well that whatever is to be ordained by the Lord, because of our karma, he is impartial. He will give whatever we deserve. No person, Swami Vivekananda said, can get what he doesn't deserve. He gets only what he deserves. So the role of God is to give, or the Lord, the cosmic order or dharma is something which is impartial. It gives to you. That's why the Buddhists say it is dharma chakra. They don't believe. They said God is not necessary. Dharma chakra will decide whatever your fate. You can decide. You can decide what kind of life you want, what kind of future you want. By changing the present, you change the future. That is their idea. Whereas here, the same thing, dharmyamrutam coming from the Lord, the same dharma coming from a personal God. So we consider a God to be our devotee, God to be compassionate towards the devotee, and we are devotees of the Lord. And if we fulfill these conditions, we get, get ultimate peace, or the Lord accepts us as his own, not before that. If we have Vaidhi Bhakti, he may give us what we want, or we may get what we earnestly desire, because if it is in our karma, we will get it. So some people, they think, oh, because I prayed to the Lord, I got these things. Though they have got it because of some good karma they have done in their previous life. God was just dispensing. But even that, Sri Krishna says, is not bad, because that's a good beginning. Later on, he will understand when he gets unpleasant things with good things. Either his faith will be totally destroyed, he will forget and curse God for his mishaps. Said, I have done so much and you did not do anything for me. That is one way. That is a dangerous thing. But most people get reconciled and they think it is all coming from the Lord. Now, before we start the last chapter, the next chapter, 13th chapter, if you have observed, the first 6 chapters more or less lay a lot of emphasis on the path of karma. And the second 6 chapters, if you observe carefully, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, up to 12th, it is the bhakti, which it leads to the ultimate bhakti, the path of bhakti. So path of karma, though Sankhya Yoga is there in the second chapter, but it is mainly Arjuna who gets the advice on what karma yoga is, how to do his duties. Then he comes to the bhakti yoga part, 6 chapters, where Sri Krishna slowly leads him from the glories of the Lord, slowly come to the Lord himself, and then surrender to him. And then finally, what we will start from the next class is the chapter number 13 to 18, which actually is the path, Jnana Yoga part, which reconciles karma and bhakti and gives a comprehensive philosophy with which you will see the next 6 chapters will take you on the path to Jnana Yoga. So we will conclude now, and the next class will begin with 13th chapter, which is known as Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga, means the yoga of discrimination between the observer and the observed, the subject and the object. We confuse both, and that is why we suffer. If we know who the subject is and who the object. So this is the path of jnana. So kshetra kshetrajna vibhaga. So this is a discrimination to distinguish between the two. So we will conclude in the, we'll begin the 13th chapter in the next alternate Saturday class. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. We don't have questions, no? I don't think we have time for. Or there are questions.